Hi, this is Annie from New York Life Coaching. Today we have a very special guest, Nelly Kim, with us. So Nelly is a veteran in the fashion industry. She came to me when she was just in the process of starting RĒDEN, her new company for elegant, comfortable shoes. She had just recovered from her battle with cancer and was going through the transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur. After 2 years of really hard work, Nelly officially launched her brand, which has become one of the most successful campaigns on Kickstarter. They reached their fundraising goal in under 48 hours and have since quadrupled their goal. I think the reason why RjourdEN resonates with so many people, besides the superb quality of the product, is because of you, Nelly, your personal story and mission. I mean, you're going to donate 50% of your profits. That's unheard of. So could you share with us your story and how you led to the creation of RjourdEN?
Yeah, it started actually when I went on a volunteer missions trip to India in 2014. So that was the first time I'd done a trip like that, and it was actually the first time I was just so inspired by the people I met there. We worked with survivors of human trafficking. So, the population that we were serving was incredible, super inspiring. Their stories were incredible. I remember looking at the women's faces and just, having conversations with them, getting to know them. And I would look at them and think, there's really very little separating you and I outside of the circumstances of birth and family and, where I happen to be born, the country I was born in and the family I was born into. Otherwise, we're very much the same. And I felt this like sort of thought to myself, like, oh, how can I do something about that? And then on top of that, I met incredible people who worked at the nonprofits there that serve that community. And I was so blown away by their work and their stories and how all parts of their lives were so integrated. So their work life, their personal life, and their spiritual life were all one and the same. And being in New York City, I think the tendency is to sort of compartmentalize your life. So you have your work life, you have your friends, and if you have some sort of spiritual practice, maybe you have a different group of friends there, and they're not all the same people. So I remember feeling in that moment just immense joy of like being able to be of use and to help others, but also like, oh, could that be something for me? Like, how could I live an integrated life? And at that moment, I knew I was like, I think I need to start a company that has the express purpose of giving back. But I was never meant to be a social worker or a doctor. That is not my gift. It's not it's not what I'm able to do. But I happen to love fashion. I was working at the time at Bergdorf Goodman, running the shoe buying area for women's shoes, and I was like, maybe there's something I can do with my years of knowledge in retail and fashion, although I don't know what that product's going to be. So after that, I actually ended up leaving Bergdorf Goodman. I never thought I would ever leave Bergdorf's, but I knew that to get closer to this mission of helping others and achieving some sort of scale, I needed to have different types of experiences. So I left not long after that. I think 6 months of the trip, I took a different job. I went to go work at Anthropologie, doing something completely, buying shoes and bags. But this is like price 200 stores versus one store, price points under $100 versus an $800 average unit retail for footwear at Bergdorf Goodman. At the time, it's probably even higher now. Um, and just went on this journey. I went from there. I didn't know what the business was going to be. I just knew I needed different experiences. And then I went after that to work at a company called Caleres, which is a shoe portfolio company. And while I was there, I started to see this white space of like, no one's really addressing radically, like truly comfortable shoes, but in a modern and chic way. You had all these people doing sport and you had these quote unquote comfort brands, but I wouldn't call any of the product particularly inspiring. None of it would be something I would wear. So I actually came up with this business plan in August of 2016. And I thought, oh, I'm going to pitch it as something actually within the Caleres portfolio, maybe. Maybe that'll be something they'll be interested in. Because I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to start this company, but, have somebody else, be a part of it, but not actually have to deal with all of the responsibility. That same month, I never actually did pitch it because that same month I finished it, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And so I was like, I guess that project and plan is a little bit on hold. And so I went through that treatment. It's just like 7 months of treatment. And then, post chemo, probably a year of just your body healing. And nobody really tells you that. Like, it does take about a year until you start to feel like yourself again. And during chemo and post chemo, I had chemo related neuropathy, which is basically like nerve damage to your extremities. So in my case, my feet were incredibly sensitive. And when I went back to work, none of my shoes worked. Like I had this, you know, 15, 20-year career and all these incredible shoes, like insane shoes that I loved. I couldn't wear any of them. And I happened to be lucky enough to work in fashion. And I could wear whatever I wanted. But I didn't really want to wear sneakers every day, even though I could. But I was just getting sick of that. And so all of a sudden, that business plan I'd come up with, a year prior, I was like, oh, this problem's actually personal now. So I sort of had this realization, oh, I think, not that there's like a rhyme or reason to getting cancer, but I also believe no experience is wasted. And I just thought to myself, I was supposed to understand this really deeply. Like this was something I really actually understand from the customer's perspective now. So, I left at the end of 19, beginning of 19, and I basically started working completely on this project, starting the business, started working with you, Annie, and because I had a lot of fear about being an entrepreneur and being not within the infrastructure of a company and having that sort of day-to-day structure and even just the back of house logistics infrastructure. So it was a journey, but it was great to work with you as I went through it. You just sort of helped guide me through the way. But yeah, that's sort of the backstory of why I started the company. And it all comes full circle because I always knew I would launch on Kickstarter and had this idea of donating 50% of my profits to charity, to really build a compassionate capitalism model and a company with purpose. And the fun part is that we're actually going to be donating 50% of our profits to cancer charities for our launch. So it's just full circle upon full circle upon full circle. And that's the story.
Wow. That's really amazing how our personal challenges sometimes became the exact thing that we need to go through in order to fulfill our purpose in the world. Yeah, so do you recall any specific challenges along the way and certain things that you wish you had known and maybe some coaching had helped you going through that process?
My personality is a little bit of like, I will think about things for a long time before I actually act upon them, because in my mind, I'm thinking of like all the ways to execute it well. And I'm not someone who likes to just jump in and do things without having a plan. So I think what was helpful and what was a bit of a challenge for me when I started was like, where do I begin? This is a humongous project, and how do you even start? So I think what was helpful for me in working with you was just you would sort of continue to prompt me, like just take a step. Like what is the first next step you could do? And like even, the name of the company, like that was a 2-3 month saga. Like what is it? It's so important. I'm such a branding person. I love brands. I love product. All of that is so meaningful to me. And I had invested so much meaning into this project. So whatever it was had to be like the perfect name. And I think you just helped me get over that, like, you know what, like don't freak out, like don't worry about it. Just think of any name and then you can always change it. And ultimately over time, I think just the process of talking through it helped me come up with a name that I was really, really happy with, and felt really right. And so we ended up with RĒDEN, which stands for this idea of a restoration to Eden. And I love it on so many levels because I think that's a little bit of the human condition of like, why are we here, is to sort of leave the world a little bit better than the way we found it, if in our own special way that we can contribute. So I love that idea. And I love the idea of, if you wear the shoes, it feels like paradise, and planting seeds into future generations, like that garden metaphor through our charitable work. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I remember those days we have so many names and you went through your lawyers and you came back with another one. But the thing is that you didn't give up. There are so many challenges, from finding manufacturers, finding the right fabric, and talking to so many people. What would you say is your biggest failure, and what have you learned from that experience in these 2 years?
My biggest failure. in some ways, I would say the failure is that I just didn't do more earlier. You know what I mean? Like, I think I waited in some ways till I felt like really, really, really ready. Even though I wasn't really ready, but I didn't, I literally waited for a while. And I think, there's a value to jump to trying things and sort of letting that process guide you towards the right answer, because the truth is nobody knows the right answer when they first start. And even now when I'm beginning, I hope that the product's going to be great and that it will resonate with the consumers. But I don't really know, and I don't have a lot of like pride about or ego about this has to be the shoe that everyone likes. Like, if they don't like it, then I'll make a new one. Like, yeah, I hope that they like it and that it resonates with people. I do really sincerely believe it's a problem that a lot of people face, and it's an underserved community of people, myself included. So I have, a lot of faith in those principles, but the how to get there, that can evolve over time. And I think being open to change and being open to what you're going to learn along the way, as opposed to having it all figured out in your brain before you start. I feel like that's something is.
Would you do this again?
Would I do this again, this process? Yeah, I would. I mean, I think I would encourage everyone. The thing is, like, everyone has some specific special superpower and story that only they have, that only this specific set of circumstances and experiences they've been through, that leads them to be able to solve a problem in a way nobody else can. So I do believe everyone has that ability to do it if they want to, or if they feel called to do that, because not everybody has that calling, and that's totally cool too. And so many ways to live out your purpose. It doesn't have to be through work.
How did you deal with naysayers in the early stage, or you are lucky people always are supportive around you? What's your experience?
People were pretty supportive. I mean, I think the people that were asking questions were doing it more out of like concern for me. Clearly when you're a cancer survivor, there's always that fear or risk that cancer could come back. So, being an entrepreneur is inherently risky because you're working for yourself. It's not guaranteed. But I just felt like, listen, I worked in this industry for 20 years. I'm not going to be more qualified if I wait 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I'll just be, more time will have passed. And time isn't guaranteed. And if this doesn't work, then I'll just get a job. It'll be fine. But I also knew that, like, I need to try it because it wasn't going away as an idea or a concept in my mind. And I felt like I had something to say. So weirdly enough, it's almost like it broke open like the gates a little, because last year in November I started a face mask company. Yes, I know. Obviously everyone has their PPE and face masks, but being a cancer survivor, I have a lot of opinions on masks, and
yeah, of course,
and used a lot of different types of masks, and I was so like dissatisfied with what was out there, and so I made one that was more of like a fun, masks that are functional, lined in silk, so they're good for your skin. And they have a little bling on them, which is even more fun. I have this idea that, there's this intersection of fashion and function and philanthropy, that you can create meaningful businesses, and you can do so if the product is special enough that it resonates with the consumer. Not that it's cause marketed, but it just happens to be a really fundamentally good product that's solving a problem. And then my little, like, the thing that makes me excited is like being able to give back. So that was the reason why I can sort of reconcile it in my brain, like in the midst of everything going on. Why am I doing this right now? Well, that is why. So that's the idea. We're going to donate back to medical debt forgiveness and hunger relief, and just COVID relief, all of those things.
It sounds like the more you allow your creativity to flow, you're able to contribute more to the causes that you care about. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I think so. I think we all can in our own ways,
Yes, and you are inspiring us to do that. Do you still remember the time when you were going through, I think you were still taking some jobs just to support the early stage. You need some funding to go through the prototyping because you didn't want to go for the venture capital route, right? So what was that like to still have to, it's almost like, I think you're working 3 jobs or 2 jobs at the same time. What was that like?
It was pretty intense. I mean, that was 2019. So it was a lead up to the pandemic, which is so interesting. Um, it was, I don't know, somehow like I made it work, but it was definitely a lot. Like I think I would, have calls frequently at midnight because my factory is based in India. I have my team members that we work with on product, and one of them is in Sweden, one of them is in LA. So it was a lot of like weekends and carving out time. I think, even talking with you about like, how do I make all this work? It's so crazy. And just being okay with like, this is the time that I have to devote to it. And that's going to have to be okay, even though it's not fully as much as I would want to do it. But at least like, okay, Friday is my day that I work on RjourdEN. Even so, Monday through Thursday, I'm doing my other full time, basically like almost full time consulting short term project. And then Friday's my day to work on RjourdEN, and that's just what I do. I'm one of those all or nothing people. So if I'm in it, I'm really in it. If I'm not, like, you couldn't pay me to do it.
That's the resilience that made you successful. So tell us, where can we find you online?
Oh, right. Okay. So the website is shopreden.com. So shop, REDEN, as in Nancy.com. And my mask company, Jadorn Me, JADORN, like Jador plus adorn me, all one word, me.com. They're really fun.
Excellent.
And on social, yeah, you can find all the Kickstarter campaign is live until March 11th, which is this Thursday. And all of those links are on my websites. So
excellent. We'll put the links. All right, so great to have you today. Thank you so much, and all the best for all your endeavors. Have a great day.
thanks, Annie.